across the room. Feeling our sitting bones begin to sink down into our mats. Breathing becomes deeper, pushing it all the way down into our bellies. Good. And on our inhale, let's lengthen in the spine, lifting from the top of the head like there's a string pulling us toward the sky. And then exhale, we'll just begin to walk our hands around to the right into a little gentle twist. Nothing too serious right now. We're not breaking any twist records. I don't think there are any, but and then back to the center, lengthen, and then exhale, walk around to the left. And then back around to the center. Let's do that one more time each side. So walking around to the right, lengthen on those inhales. We'll twist on the exhales. And back around. Inhale, and then over to the left. And back to the center. Brilliant. Inhale, hands come up high. And then exhale, we'll bring them over to the right. Little side stretch here. So press that left hip down into our mats. And inhale, we'll come up. Exhale, over to the other side. Good. Inhale, over to the right as we exhale. And inhale, up last time, over to the left. Good. Back up to the top. Let's do a little back bend here, and then exhale. Let's come forward into a little fold. Good. Walking our hands back, rolling our way up to the top. Hands come up. Little tiny back bend when we get up to the top, and then exhale. Let's come forward, round in the spine. So we're just moving all over in that spine, waking ourselves up. And then walking back with those hands, rolling our way up. Good. And then hands can come down to the mat, and we'll walk our hands forward. So we'll come onto our hands and our knees. Tucking those toes, we'll open up our feet and our ankles. Good. And then bringing those shoulders over the wrists. Knees are underneath of our hips. Our toes can still be tucked, or if we would like, we can totally let them sit flat, up to you. And now, from here, let's just do some cats and some cows. So rounding as we exhale, lifting the spine up toward the sky. Tucking the tail, tucking our chin. And then inhale, we'll drop that tummy, lift the heart, lift our keister. Exhaling, rounding. Inhaling, arching. Moving with our breath, just moving ever so gently and deliberately getting that spine to just loosen up. And let's do one more cat and one more cow. And then we'll meet together when we're ready at a neutral spine. Good. And now, just hinging at the hips right here, we're just going to press back hips to our heels and then just come forward again. Press back and come forward. So we want to keep that back nice and straight as we go backward. And then come forward and back. Good. Forward, really breathing into that tummy. We should feel a good, strong torso all the way around. Good. And now, pressing back. This time, when we come forward, let's bring the right foot up into a baby lunge. We'll stay here for just one breath. And then exhale, we'll come back. And then inhale, come forward with that left foot. And press back. Good. Coming forward with that right foot. And back. And left foot comes up. And back. Good. Right foot comes forward. We'll stay here for a little bit longer now. Good. Let's lift up that right hand into a little twist. Opening up those shoulders, pressing into that left hand, reaching with the right, sinking those hips down. Good. And back down to our mats with both hands. Little lunge. And now let's come back to a half split. So our toes will point up to the sky. Our hips are over our knee or just a little bit toward that heel. Back is nice and straight. And then inhale, we'll come forward. And now let's lift up that right hand again. Exhale down. Lengthen in that spine. Next exhale, we'll come back. Good. And forward, hands find the mat. One little sink, and then step back into our child's pose, or into just that little low position. Inhale, let's come forward with that left foot. Same on this side, if we can remember what we did. Nice long spine. Really begin to open up those hips. Left hand comes up to the sky. Good. And back down. Lengthen. And then next exhale, we'll come back to our half split. Good. Inhale, we'll come forward. And again, left hand will come up. Stack those shoulders. Exhale down. Inhale, we lengthen. Exhale, let's walk our way back. Good. Inhale, coming on forward. And then let's take that leg back and we'll find our child's pose. We'll just round in the spine, really lower that chest. Good. Let's inhale up and we'll bring our right foot forward again. And lift up that right hand nice and high. Sink the hips down, stack the shoulders, lift in the heart. Exhale, let's come back down. Lengthen on that next inhale. Exhale, let's come back, little split. Inhale, let's come forward. Good. And now this time, let's bring those hands up nice and high into a high half lunge. Good. And now let's take that right hand back, left hand comes forward. And back up to the top. And hands come back down to the mat. Let's step back. Child's pose for just a tiny bit. And now this time, let's inhale up to a baby plank. Plank can be on our knees here. If we're feeling it, we can always tuck those toes and lift the knees up off of the floor if this is where we want to be. Exhale, let's lower that chest down. And then hands are underneath of our shoulders here. Let's inhale, scoop our chests forward, and then lift it up off of the mat into a baby cobra. And press back to our child's pose again. Let's come on up and bring that left leg with us. Good. Lifting the left hand, opening up those shoulders, sinking the hips down. Beginning to feel a lot of length forming in our bodies. Good. And back down. Lengthen here. And then exhale, we'll come back to our half split. Again, hands can be on our thigh or to our shin, to the floor if we have a block. Think about tilting that pelvis back so our tail is pointing behind us. Good. Inhale, let's come forward. And then hands up high. Good. Little twist, taking that left hand back, right hand forward. Good. Back up to the center. And hands come back down. Let's step back. Inhale up to our plank. Knees, toes. Exhale, let's lower down. Inhale, let's scoop our chest forward and then up. And then press all the way back to our child's pose. Good. And now let's bring our knees together. So our knees are nice and close in this child's pose. Our feet are flat, our hips are right over those heels. We're just gonna walk our way up into a kneeling position. And now from here, we can put our hands to the floor, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna lift our knees up off of the floor and stretch out the tops of our feet. So we can use the floor to help us. If we would like to challenge ourselves, we can put our hands to our thighs for a little balance, strength training. This is a good balance because if you fall, you're not going that far. Good, and now let's just lower those knees and we'll come all the way down to a child's pose. Good. Arms are out in front of us, really, really far, pressing into the ground with all of our fingers. Pulling the shoulders back behind us. Now we're going to keep our chests real low and begin to bring them forward as if we're smelling our mat, which is kind of weird. Chests are low all the way until your hands find their space underneath the shoulders. And then we're going to scoop up into an upward facing dog. Good. Let's drop those knees. We'll come back to our child's pose. Let's do that one more time. Nose is close to the mat, pulling those shoulders back. Chest is low. We find that spot underneath of our shoulders. And then coming on up into an upward facing dog. Good. Drop the knees. Back to our child's pose. And now let's come on up, bringing that right foot with us. And to lengthen, hips probably woke up by now. Good. And now we're going to take this left foot and we're going to kind of swing it over to the right as we walk our hands over to the left. So now we're pointing over to the side, and now our right leg is nice and long. Our left knee is bent. Hands are still on the floor. You can just hang out here. Try and press the outside of that right foot down into our mat. Lengthen inside that leg. Inhale, let's bring those hands up high for gate. Good. Let's sway those hands over to the right. Our right hand can find our leg if we would like, or continue to reach. It's up to you. Think about lengthening on the inside ribs, so we don't want to just collapse. Up and over. Good. And then back up to the top. And now let's go over to the left. The left hand will find the floor. Right hand comes up to the sky into a modified side plank. Good. And then slowly we'll come back up to the top. Exhale, fold forward, hinge at the hips, hinge at the shoulders, nice flat back here. Press the outside of that right foot back down into our mat. Good. And now let's bend this right knee nice and wide. And both feet are pointing in opposite directions, and we're in a little frog position here. So we can just find that frog. We can come forward or backward. Just open up those hips nice and wide. Good. And now let's point that right foot out to the side again. We'll come back into this side lunge position for just a moment as we walk ourselves back around toward the front of our mat. Into our little lunge. Good. And now let's step back into our child's pose. Hands are out in front of us, keeping those noses on the floor, scooping our way forward and into our upward facing dog. Keep pulling that spine forward, heart up. Good, and then lower those knees, coming all the way back. And now this time as we come up, our left leg will come forward. Good, and then we'll swish that right foot back and walk ourselves around into gate. So walking our way to the right, left leg is out long, pressing the outside edge of that left foot into our mat. Our right knee is bent underneath of our hip. Think about lengthening as we press, pulling on the inside of those thighs. Nice long back. And then when we're ready, inhale, hands come up high into our gate. Let's sway those hands over to the left. Keeping our shoulders in the same plane. We don't want to turn. Hand can come to the thigh if we like, but we still want to keep that length in those inner ribs. Good. Inhale, let's come up. And then exhale, we're going over to the other side. Right hand finds the floor. Left hand reaches for the sky. Opening up. A little side plank action here. Good. And then slowly we'll come back up. And then exhale, we'll fold forward, hands find our mats are on the floor. Press into that edge one more time. And then let's bend that left knee and find our way into our pwog. And then just a few breaths, we'll just kind of rock back and forth. Good. And then when we're ready, we'll stick that left foot out again. And then walk our way around toward the top of our mat into our little lunge. And step back into our child's pose. From here, let's keep those butts nice and low over our heels. We'll walk these right fingers out in front of us really, really, really far. So we're creating a ton of space, a ton of length in that right side. The left hand will reach underneath, thread the needle, and just place that left shoulder onto our mats. Our hips may come up a little bit off of our heels. That's okay. Take a few breaths here. As we begin to settle in, we can deepen the pose, deepen that twist by placing our left hand on top of the right to help encourage those shoulders to open up a little bit further. Encourage, not force. Good. And then we'll slowly unwind. Let that chest sink down toward the mat. Take a couple of breaths here in child's pose. And then when we're ready, begin to creepy curl those left fingers out in front of us. Create a lot of space and length. And then we'll thread the needle with that right hand, going through, placing the shoulder onto the mat. We can rest our head, but continue to reach that right hand through. Keep crawling the left fingers out. And after a few breaths, we can deepen if we like and begin to open up those shoulders by placing the left hand or the right hand on top of the left. Or we can even place that right hand on the floor next to our face. Help open up those shoulders. But like with all of our twists, create length as we inhale as best we can, and then use those exhales to deepen the twist. Good. Slowly we'll unwind. Come back to our child's pose. Good. Let's inhale, coming on up. Bringing that right foot forward. Good. Now let's work our way into corkscrew pose. So our left hand will stay on the floor. Right hand is going to reach back and find our foot behind us. Begin to pull that buddy back in toward our keister. We can, keeping the hips pointing forward, will help lengthen in those quads. Open up the shoulder. Nice long back. Good. And now we'll gently just release that foot down to the mat. Hands find the floor again. Lengthen here. Feel that hip begin to sink down. And now let's come up to a high lunge. And exhale, bringing our hands to our hearts, pushing into our palms, nice and firm, to pull those shoulders back, lengthen in our necks, sink down, lengthen in the spine. Next inhale, exhale, let's take this left elbow all the way around to the right thigh. Keep pressing into those palms to help open up the shoulders a little bit more. Sinking down into the lunge, lengthen and deepen. Do one more inhale. Stay for that exhale. And at the end, unwinding, hands find the floor. Good. And now, we're going to walk our way back to our half split. Stay here for a couple of breaths. And in my head, this works really well, so we'll see how it goes. We're going to take this left foot and kind of tuck it, and we'll just come all the way back to our butts into, sliding that, into a Janu Shirshasana. So our left leg is inside the right thigh, right leg is nice and long. Lengthen on that inhale. We're going to turn toward that left leg and then place the right elbow to the inside of the right knee. Lift up the left hand to the sky or up and over. Good. And then slowly we'll inhale up, lengthen as we come up. Exhale, let's turn toward that right leg now and walk our way down into a little fold. Let's do one more inhale. Same for the exhale, and then at the very tail end of that exhale, we'll drop the head, we'll drop our hands, and we'll roll our way up. Good, and now we'll just swing that right leg back behind us. Hands will come out in front of us, and we'll settle back into our child's pose. Let's take a couple of breaths here in child's pose before we move on to the other side. Good. Inhaling up, let's step that left leg forward. Sinking in the hips, lengthening in the back. Keep lengthening. As we inhale, the right hand is going to stay on the floor. We're going to reach back, find our foot for corkscrew. Almost there. Good. And then we'll just release that ever so gently down to the mat. Lengthen here, deepen that lunge. And then when we're ready, let's find our balance and come up to our high lunge. Into a little crescent lunge if we'd like, little back bend. And then exhaling, bringing those hands to our hearts, opening up the shoulders, lengthen. And then when we're ready, on our next exhale, let's take that right elbow all the way around to the left knee. Pressing into the palms, opening the shoulders. Do one more inhale and exhale. Then we'll slowly unwind. Sit, work our way back for our half split. Stay here again for a couple of breaths. Lengthen in that spine, hinge at the hips, tilt that pelvis. Good. And then that awesome transition where we tuck the right foot, we lower ourselves down into Janu Shirshasana. Good. Lengthen on that inhale. We'll turn toward the right knee first. Then we'll lower that left elbow down to the inside of that left knee. If you can grab those, grab your big toe with your peace finger if you would like to do that. And then we can lift up the right hand straight up, or we can reach up and over. Almost there. Good. Inhale, let's come on up. Lengthen as we rise. And then we'll turn toward that left leg and slowly walk our way down into a fold. Do one more breath. Stay for that exhale. And at the very tail end, we'll just lower that head. We can release the arms and help ourselves back up to the top. Good. And you know what? We're just going to stay here, bring both legs out in front of us. We can wiggle it out a little bit if we need. Good. Very nice. So now let's do like a little figure four. So we're going to bend this left knee. We're going to cross the right over at the ankle. And we can use our hands and our left foot to just kind of find the distance that we need where we're at today. Think about moving this right knee away from our body. We'll get a good rotation in that right hip, keeping the back nice and straight. Good. And then we'll slowly wiggle those left feet out a little bit. We'll unwind. We'll go over to the other side. So right knee is bent, left foot crosses over. And again, keeping that back nice and straight. Moving the left knee away from our body. Good. And then we'll just wiggle those feet out. We'll unwind, give it a little wiggle if we need. Excellent. And now we'll give our hips a bit of a rest so we can come to a crisscross applesauce if we like. And we're just going to come and work a little bit on our shoulders and our necks before we find our mat. So just with our head, move side to side, chin around to the shoulder. Just moving it around. Feel some crackles possibly. If you get a good one, make sure you wiggle your fingers. Make sure it's not catastrophic. Good. And then back to the center. And then let's roll those shoulders. Big circles with those shoulders. And then we'll go the other way. Excellent. And then let's bring those shoulders all the way up into our ears. Big exhale, drop them all the way down. Breathe into that belly. Let's take the right hand. We're going to reach all the way around behind us. See if we can touch that opposite hip. And we can hold on to it with the left hand. Lengthen. And then we'll exhale and just lower the head over to the left. Good. And we'll release that hand all the way around, and we want to touch the left leg with our right hand. Lengthen here, begin to turn like we are going to do a little twist, but we're going to take that left hand and reach it like we want to scratch our back or like touch the back of our head, and then begin to lean over to the right. We got a little twist, a little side bend. And our hand is behind our head, so we look like we're super relaxed. Good. Coming on up. We'll release, unwind. Let's take that left arm back behind us. Touch the right hip. Right hand comes to help. Lengthen, and then we'll lower our head over to the right side. Really drop that left shoulder. Good. And then we'll release the hand. Head comes up. And we'll bring that arm all the way around to the outside of that right thigh. Begin to turn to the right. Reach that right hand. Touch the back of our head. And then keeping that twist, we'll just begin to lean over to the left. Good. And then we'll slowly release our arms. We'll come back up. We'll unwind. Nice and tall with our spine. We'll bring those feet out in front of us. knees into our chest, and we'll rock back onto our backs. We'll roll up into our little egg. And now let's bring those feet up to the sky, flexing the feet. And we'll press that tail back down into our mat. We'll hold behind the thighs and then just gently let them come. Let those legs come in towards us. And releasing those legs. Let's let the left leg fall down to the mat. We'll keep a hold of this right one. Keep reaching with the right heel and with the left heel down below. So we're just actively lengthening in those legs. We'll slowly, baby pressure, bring that leg toward us. And then release. And now let's bend the knee just slightly and bring it in towards us. And release. Let's do that one more time with each little thing. So now let's straighten that leg, really pressing the heel up toward the sky, bringing it to us. And release, bend the knee. Bring it to us. We'll feel different sensations in our hamstrings. So it's totally okay if we need to bend the knee in a forward fold or something because we have a tight hammy or something. We're still getting something out of it. And we're not getting the pain. So that is a thing. If we're super tight that day or we haven't found that long leg, that's totally fine. Now let's bring both legs up and we'll switch sides. So right leg will come along and it's still reaching as it comes down to the ground. Left leg reaching up to the sky. And release. Now let's bend the knee just slightly and bring it to us. So pressing that tail down in toward the mat. And release one more time. Lengthen, keep pressing that heel up to the sky. I'm getting the shakes. And back, let's release, bend the knee. Good, let's release both legs. Bend the knees, bring them into our chest, roll up into our little ball. Good. And let's bring those legs up to the sky, reach with our fingers, a little crackleasana here, moving those feet around in our ankles, hands around in our wrists, point and flex, wiggle the fingers and the toes, and then slowly we'll just lower them down into a big morning stretch, make ourselves nice and long. And then on our next exhale, let's just release everything and we find our Shavasana. whatever position we would like to be in for our Shavasana is completely fine. Bend knees, long legs, curl up into a ball, whatever you can find where we can be still for a few minutes and just allow ourselves to be. No expectations, no agenda, no judgment. Close our eyes and we breathe. Our body will do the rest. We're beginning to deepen our breath. We'll wiggle our fingers and our toes. We slowly bring awareness back into our bodies. We come back into our space. We'll bring our knees into our chest. We'll roll over onto our side. We'll slowly help ourselves up to seated. We'll take a moment to check in with how we are feeling right now. After our practice, and after our little yogi nap. We'll bring our hands together at our hearts. Lower our head and bow to ourselves in gratitude. Giving ourselves thanks for all of the gifts that we just gave us. I thank you all for joining me today, for allowing me to help you through your practice, allowing me to see your faces on my Zoom call. I wish you all a very, very happy day. Great rest of your week. The light in the divine in me recognizes and respects the light in the divine in each of you. And when we are together, whether physically or virtually, we are one. Namaste. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Stay cool and hydrated.
Thanks,
Good plan.
Jess.
Thank